Welcome to the first 2020 Gills book club. Hope you're seeing me here. If you are seeing me, say hello, please, in the comments and let me know. My name is Jessica Abel. I'm sure you know that already, but just in case. And we're going to be talking about the introduction to Going Gills today in the first book club. We'll talk about how this is all going to work as far as I can tell so far, because I'm going to be improvising a little bit as I go along. But I'm really, really excited to be doing this. I'm really excited to re-engage with this work that I published a couple years ago. Awesome. I'm seeing people saying you can see me. That's cool. Thanks for being here live. I am trying to master a whole bunch of different tech at the same time, so I cannot make promises that this isn't going to go a little sideways, but I do promise that I will just jump on it and keep going. I can't tell how many people are here live in this view. I don't know. Anyway, clearly a lot of people are, so that's awesome. Thank you for being here. All right, so today's subject is the introduction to Going Gills. A little bit of housekeeping first. I'm going to be doing this, I think, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for approximately, I want to say 6 weeks. I'm basically going to take a chapter per meeting. And so if you want to kind of figure out where we're at, I'm going to try to schedule out these lives ahead of time and say what's up next. And you can read and do the exercises, sort of getting ready for the thing, or you can come to the meeting and then read and do the exercises. But in order to sort of pace yourself through the entire book, if you think sort of 6 weeks-ish, that would be about what we're talking about here. These are all recorded and archived in the group, so if you miss a meeting, you can come back and get it later. You also can just say, like, you know what, I got this. I don't need to come to the meetings for this section or this chapter. Like, I'm not that interested in the chapter. That's okay, too. I'm not taking attendance. What I am going to do, though, and I think could be really cool, is I'm going to set up, so inside the group, they have this new structure that's like a pedagogical structure, kind of. And so I'm going to set up topics and sort of units and chapters. One of the topics I'm going to set up is accountability, and I'll do that right after we meet, after we get off live. And I will encourage you to go into the accountability thread. If you don't have somebody you know already in this group, I mean, please invite them. That would be awesome. You can send them the landing page to sign up for the book group, and I will post that later in this thread. And it's also, of course, below in the group. You can invite a friend, but you can also meet up with other people who are here specifically for this in order to have more companionship and accountability through the process. Because while I'm going to be paying attention to comments and answering questions and things here, I mean, there's a limit to how much I individually can do. And one of the things I've learned with such force and strength from working with the Creative Focus Workshop and the Autonomous Creative Collective, which is the ongoing group for it, is how powerful the collective and the cohort is. And so you are now here with a cohort of people who have been writing writing messages in our introduction thread, and also as you apply to the group, you answer questions. And I'm seeing so many people who are just dying to get this work done. And you can partner up with those people. So I'm going to create an accountability topic, and you can post in that topic and use that topic for your posts, and request accountability partners, talk about doing virtual co-working. I recommend all of those, different ways of kind of getting together with people who have similar interests. I know it can be really difficult sometimes, depending on your life situation, to find people who are aligned with you. So Aletta is asking, will these videos be available for replay in the group? Yes, they will. They will all be archived under the videos tab. You'll be able to find everything there. And I'm going to title them with what we're talking about, so you'll be able to find stuff. They're also going to be archived on my blog. I'm going to download them and put them up on the blog, so you can find them there as well. But inside here, you'll find them along with all of the comments as well. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of great comments here. A lot of people starting to say hello and greetings. And I'm just going to skip all this stuff so we have time to talk and ask questions and things. So feel free to continue chatting with each other as well. If you have a question or a comment that I need to respond to, please preface it with the word question so that I can catch it in the comments. Because I can't, there's going to potentially be a lot of people commenting, and I need to make sure I can highlight those things. So please make sure that you use the word question. Okay, so let's just get started. I was just rereading the introduction, and one of the things I'm going to be working on through this process is I'd like to make a second edition of the book and do some editing. Sometimes I think I went a little overboard and it was a little long. And also some of the ideas I've evolved quite a bit since 2017, and I want to sort of tighten those things up a little bit. So I'm going to be looking at this as an opportunity for me to really get a lot of feedback from you on what's working and what's not. So please feel free to share with me anything you're thinking like, oh, I wish there was more clarity around this. I would be really appreciative of that. Anyway, I've been reading it, and it was pretty interesting to reread. Also planning to record an audiobook later this year. And when I was looking at where's my notes? Here we go. When I was looking at the introduction, what struck me is how much time I spent when I was putting this together to make sure that I was being welcoming to you and clear that no matter where you are in your creative life, there's a lot to be had out of foregrounding the project of building a more resilient and sustainable creative life. There's just a lot of value and benefit in that, no matter where you are in your journey. And we have people in this group, and I've worked with people for years who are both like in the first few years of their creative life where, or maybe they've been doing it for a long time, but they're just ready to get serious about it now. And they're really struggling with just kind of getting off the starting blocks. And I work with a lot of other people who are part-time or full-time creative professionals who are completely overwhelmed with all of the things that are coming at them. And their big struggle is making sure that they carve out time for their personal work as opposed to client work, as opposed to, other kinds of job-related things or having to do with their profession. So, there's a lot of room in that gamut from people who are serious about the creative work but haven't really gotten very far with it yet, to people who've done it for years and are just really struggling to make sure that their main work, happens. So I've spanned that gamut too, and I think that it's a gamut that like everybody who gets to that point of being a full-time professional, the vast majority of us, if not absolutely everybody, gets to that overwhelmed point, and most of us also started with that point of feeling fear and perfectionism and having to get over that and get the work out in order to build a career in the first place. So that's like, it's almost like sort of the ages of man, like seeing everything at the same time. And even if you find yourself sort of more at the beginning of that scale and you're older, there's nothing to do with age, actually. It has to do with when have you actually taken action and how often have you taken action and like what are the results of that? Because one of the things that I see is that as soon as people start taking action and actually getting the work out there in the world, what comes back is opportunities. And the opportunities lead to potentially overwhelm. So it's kind of like a naturally building system. But what I think is really important to take in here is that wherever you are on that spectrum, on that scale, and you may be in more than one place at the same time. I mean, you may be struggling with perfectionism and also overwhelmed at the same time. That is happens all the time. That you are not weird. There's nothing wrong with you. I can't tell you how many times I've started to work with people in like the Creative Focus workshop or something, and they show up in the forum, in the community, and they're just like, oh my God, I thought that I was the only one, over and over again. And if there's one message I can give you, it's like, you are not alone. You are not the only one who struggles with, perfectionism and thinking that, fear and thinking that your work is not good enough. You're not the only one who struggles to say no to other people's demands on your time so that you can do your own thing. I mean, this is just totally, this is what we're all here for. So what I'd like to challenge you to do right now, if you feel brave enough, and this is, I should reiterate, somebody said this in the comments a minute ago, this is a public forum in the sense that I don't personally know all the people who are here. So don't say anything in the comments that you feel like, is risky in that kind of sense. But what I would like you to do is try to take a creative risk right now and write something about, why do you think you're weird? What do you think is most broken about you personally? And then if you see somebody else saying something that resonates with you, I want you to hit a love icon on it, an emoji, and support that person. Because that is how we start to unclench all of that anxiety and move forward. So think about it. Think about what could you say about like how you think that you are uniquely broken, and then take a really hard look at all of the other people commenting and look at all the ways in which you resonate with the way they are feeling. I think this is a really powerful exercise in practicing a little bit of vulnerability and feeling a lot less alone. So I know it's going to take a little bit, and it's going to take a little bit of getting over the hump, but this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of work that we're going to be doing throughout this book. And the more you're able to share about it, the more you're able to be open about it, the more you're going to get back in the whole process. So I'm seeing some really great shares here in the comments. Christopher survived a traumatic childhood and feels that he just came out this way. And it's just absolutely this is the natural result. And I would say to Christopher that I'm very sorry that you suffered the way you suffered as a child. And that makes it even more important to do what you can to take control now of your time and your attention and not let those demons rule your current life. And I know you can do it. I know you really can. So Liz says she has crazy amounts of anxiety and struggles with depression. If that resonates with you, if Christopher's comment resonates with you, please hit an emoji on their comments in the stream. Anita feels she's weird because most people she knows don't share her interests. And I can totally understand how that would happen, but I bet there's a lot of people in the world who share your interests, even if the people you know immediately don't. Deborah feels she can't follow through on all of her many, many ideas. I bet that resonates with a lot of you guys. So I want you to go through, there's a bunch of different comments here. And please go back through and spend a little time commenting and supporting each other, because this is going to be the heart of how you can create these supportive bonds and also sort of feel less out there. And I'm going to continue on as that happens in comments, and I will come back to comments later, more, in a more focused way. But I do want to say that you are not wrong that creative work is different. It's different in its nature than other kinds of work you're trying to create, other types of work you try to do in your day. So taking care of other people in your life, executing stuff that your boss gives you from work. These are different kinds of work, and they require different kinds of emotional commitment. It's not a less or more kind of question, but it is different. And what's different about it, and this is what we talk about in the introduction, especially in the second section, why you're here, is that creative work by its nature is something you create whole cloth out of. Whole cloth, I mean, you could be using influences and all kinds of things, potentially, but you are pulling all these threads together and creating something new in the world that's never existed before. And that is a risky proposition, because if you're going to share that with anybody, if you're going to have it out in the world at all, then you are opening yourself up to any kind of criticism or judgment that you might imagine is out there. Now, in practice, I find there's a lot less of that than people imagine, but it is not wrong. You're not wrong about that. That is a risky thing because it's not just that you're sharing something that exists, and other people are like, oh, I like that, I don't like that. It's sharing a piece of yourself. You're sharing something like really intimate to yourself. This is why I call, the book Out on the Wire, my book about storytelling. That image of going out on the wire is about taking those creative risks and really putting it all out there. And that is really different. It also, generally speaking, has very little externally imposed structure to it, right? Nobody else is telling you to do this thing or caring that you do it or not until it's already finished and you've already had to go through the entire process. And that lack of external structure is also not unique, but very unusual in the kinds of work that we do in our lives and the kind of engagement we have with our lives. And so looking at those things, I think if this feels hard, you're not wrong. Like, that's not unusual that you would feel that way. One of the things that's happening right now, though, with the COVID-19 crisis is that a lot of other people in the world, and possibly you as well, are learning how much it matters to build routine and structure and support into your work life. So even if your work life is, if you're working from home suddenly, even if you're working at a company, you still have to build those guardrails and those routines in place. And so those of you who've been doing creative work on your own and learning how to create that structure for yourself for years have a leg up and can help other people understand that as well. So what I want to ask you then, as far as like sort of what you do with the book club, is like, if lack of imposed structure feels like an issue to you, and I will guarantee you it is to like 99% of the people here, I want to introduce you to the idea of creating guardrails for yourself, creating lines and structure and some kind of consistency for yourself. And I want you to think about what is one tiny way that you could create a guardrail for yourself in your daily life, which could take the form of like a reminder, for example, that pops up on your phone at a certain time of day to do a certain kind of thing that you want to do. Whether it's like at 11 in the morning, I want to drink a glass of water, or whether it's, at 2:30 in the afternoon, I need to take a break and take a walk. Or maybe it's, 8 in the morning, it's time to spend 15 minutes looking at my big project and deciding on my next step. So if you can think of right now, what is something that you can put in place today, right now, that would be one tiny little guardrail that protects against going off the track with something that you've been trying to do. And I want to emphasize the word tiny. I want this to be something very, very small that is very achievable so that you can feel like you nailed it. It's very important to experience success. So think about, what could you do that could help you experience success in some small way. That may mean, in terms of your creative work, you're just going to open up your sketchbook. That's all you're going to do. And you're going to do it at a certain time of day that is associated with something. Not in the middle of everything, like all of a sudden 10 in the morning, like, oh, I got to open my sketchbook. No. Put it at a time and a place when that is possible. If it's something about your physical health, because, right now that's really on our minds, what is one thing that you've kind of been skipping that you need to do that you could put into place today? This is about building habits, and any kind of habit building is going to be practice for, doing more and better with that. And I just would say, remember, tiny, teeny weeny tiny. This is super important because until you have a habit that's reliable, you can't build on that habit. And you need to start small. You need to start in an achievable way. Okie doke. So I have some things coming in here. Kelly says 5 minutes of writing new content. I think that sounds great, Kelly. The question is, can you sit down and start writing 5 minutes of new content? Like, bam, you just start. Me, I couldn't. I would need ramp up time. I would need to know what I was working on, and like there'd be this sort of like chunk of sort of what they call context switching time that would be necessary for me to get to the point where I would be able to write new content. Think about what those things look like for you, and maybe those are the things you need to put into your habit, in your reminder. That's your guardrail, not the writing part, but the prep part. Sanya says, the walk definitely can be a short one, just move away from the desk. Yes. Now, what time and how are you going to remind yourself to do it? How long is the walk going to be? Like, get very, very granular and specific. Annette asked about apps that help with productivity management. Oh my goodness, there are so many. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about operating systems later in the book, but feel free to start a post in the group and ask what people like. People love talking about the productivity systems. Most important thing is, app's not going to solve the thing. This is what's going to solve the thing. Okay, Karen says, tell the rest of my family about my commitment so that I get support and am accountable. Awesome, very good. Now think about when that happens. Don't do it the minute you're about to do the thing. Make it ahead of time. So what are you going to tell them tonight about what you're going to do tomorrow? And then get it on your calendar and make sure everybody else knows what's happening when it's happening. Communication in this very unsettled time is key. Julia would like to bury her phone in the backyard for a few hours a day. Okay, maybe there could be something less damaging to the equipment, but yes, I think something where you literally put the phone, like put it in your refrigerator for an hour or something like that, so you can't hear it do anything. That could be a really good thing to do. I'm actually on a news fast today. I agreed with one of my members of the Autonomous Creative Collective. She was struggling with news overload, and so we agreed the two of us are going to not look at the news at all today. So when I got my news headlines in my email this morning, I deleted it. I'm ignoring all day today. So I'm going to think about doing that. I'm going to see how it goes today, and I think about doing that all week. I'm not going to watch any late night shows, none of this stuff. So think about what will really help you and support your mental health. Janice wants to get out of bed, showered and dressed in proper clothing by 8:30. Awesome. So what does that mean in terms of when your alarm gets set? So Aletta says, my guardrail is scheduling writing time first at the beginning of the week and then plan around that. Good. How long? What time? How many times? Get specific. Okay. All right. Good stuff coming in here. I'm going to continue talking, but a lot of you guys have a really good idea of what I'm talking about here. I want I want you to name the time, the start time, the duration, the specific thing you're going to do, and the end time. And then how are you going to put this into your calendar, remind yourself or whatever? What are the things that are going to work? If you use your phone all the time, put it on your phone. If you don't use your phone all the time, put it in a Post-it note, someplace where you're going to see it, at the appropriate time, something along those lines. Okay. Katie, I like yours. Write a funny tweet at 1:30. That is funny. I like that. But again, can you start writing and finish a funny tweet, like right at that time? Is that a time when you're not going to be interrupting yourself from something else? Make sure that you've actually set that up properly to support success. Okay, so this is the thing of this is like no imposed structure. There's no imposed structure. So one of the things that we do throughout Growing Gills, we do this in Creative Focus Workshop, is we talk a ton about taking control and structure. Right now, what we're all suffering from, and I'm sure most of you guys feel this way, I feel it to a certain extent, other people feel it even more, this sense of sort of free-floating anxiety and like unmooredness and like, I don't know what's going on and I need to be paying attention to all these different things. And I think that the truth is this crisis is showing us how many things we don't have control over. And that is a very destabilizing feeling, knowing how many things are just like, whoa, I have no control over what's going to go on with my job or with, the hospital down the street or whatever. Like I can't control any of those things. Very destabilizing. But this is what's really, really important, is that there is a lot of stuff you do have control over. And if you're in a situation where you have control over very few things, it's even more important to take control of the things where you do have control. Allowing all this stuff to just kind of like flow over you is a recipe for depression, anxiety, not getting stuff done, going down a shame spiral because you're not getting stuff done. If that sounds familiar, it's because I'm hearing a lot of that from a lot of people. I am not pulling this out of thin air. This is what happens. So this guardrail idea that I introduced to you is something that can be an anchor for you. If you have one thing you can do in a day, like I did that one thing, then you are winning. All right. All right, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here. I'm going to make sure these stay under 30 minutes. So what I want to say finally is I need you to think about, don't think about, I need you to start time tracking. I think you should start time tracking today if you haven't already done it. What is the point of time tracking? Time tracking gives you a global control view of what's going on in your life. You can start to see all the things that are happening around you and what you are doing and what you're not doing, what you're choosing unconsciously and what you're not choosing. It can be very uncomfortable, but it is incredibly useful. All right. So I want you to commit to doing time tracking for 2 to 3 weeks and remind yourself to write down what you're doing every 15 to 30 minutes. You can use the form that's in the workbook, or you can just use it, print out a calendar, like a day view calendar, and use that, whatever makes sense to you. But track your time. And what I want to encourage you to do is not just watch what you're doing and have mindfulness about what you're doing, which will change your behavior. If you read that Heisenberg principle, the fake scientific principle that is in the introduction, you'll know what I'm talking about there. You will start seeing changes just by paying attention. But here's what I want you to do, and this has to do with the guardrails idea that I introduced to you a minute ago. This evening, when you stop your day, when you are like, I'm done with work for the day, and I want you to decide when that is and tell yourself, I am done with work for the day, and not just let things trail off. Because if you haven't worked from home before, you don't know how easy it is to just let things dribble off into the night forever. And if you have, you do, and it's bad. So set yourself a time. I'm done with work now. Now is when I'm done. Tell this to yourself. Then I want you to look at what you have on for tomorrow, and I want you to decide what your top 3 things that you need to get done tomorrow are, and I want you to write them down where you're not going to miss them. I often use a Post-it pad and write stuff down there. And I'll stick it to my laptop, keyboard or whatever, so that I can't miss it. Decide your top 3s tonight, not tomorrow morning. Decide tonight. So one of those things may be do this guardrail activity, right? You may have 2 other things you definitely have to do. Get them on a list, visible to you tonight, and that will help make tomorrow smoother, reduce your decision fatigue tomorrow, and also help you feel less anxious tonight and probably sleep better. There's actually studies showing that people who plan their day the night before get to sleep up to 7 minutes sooner than people who don't. So I want to really encourage you to think about that. Okie doke, let's see. Checking out comments here. All right. Allie says, today is day 2 of time tracking, so helpful. Thank you for confirming that. That's awesome. I will be creating topics for these conversations so you can continue talking about what you find from time tracking in the group, and I hope you will, because it's really helpful for other people as well. Tao says, today I signed my workbook contract with myself and have been tracking since 7 a.m. Awesome. It's easy to fall off the wagon with time tracking. Don't worry about it. Just start where you are and move forward. Really, don't worry about it. Start where you are and move forward. Selena's also starting today. Awesome. Okay, Allison started today, and Christopher's sharing music. I guess it's a soundtrack for time tracking. That's cool. Okay, so that is it for today. So number 1 lesson is you are not weird. Number 2 lesson is take control of your time in whatever teeny weeny ways you can win at immediately, and kind of let the rest of the stuff go. Just focus on the things you can control and keep them tiny. Keep the things that you're trying to control tiny. And number 3, time track, which includes setting your top 3s for tomorrow. So those are the 3 things I want you to take away today. Please, in the comments here, I think it'd be really valuable for you to post your top takeaway from today. Remember to go back through comments and support other people who are sharing about how they feel that this is extra challenging for them. If you resonate with that, if you're like that, I want you to go back and comment and support those people. And I would really love to see some takeaways from this, because that'll help you actually incorporate this learning and, build it into your life going forward. And I will be back on Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern, whatever time it was in your local time zone, same time, same place. I'm going to set up a schedule thing, so if you if you ask for a reminder, you'll get a reminder ahead of time. And and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really fun. Thank you so much for showing up live, you guys. It's been awesome seeing you here. I'm really, really excited for this. And it's going to be great. All right. See you later.